Morning, everyone. The December 16th, 2020 session of Haliburton County Council is now in session. Warden Liz Danielson presiding.
Good morning, everyone. We'll get right to business, and if I could ask for a roll call, please.
Councillor Moffat.
Present.
Warden Danielson.
Present.
Councillor Roberts.
Present.
Councillor Kennedy.
Present.
Councillor Burton.
Present.
Councillor Ryle.
Present.
Councillor DeVolin.
Present.
And Councillor Schell.
Present.
Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda, please? Councillor Schell, Councillor Moffat.
Moved by Councillor Schell, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Be it resolved that the December 16th, 2020 Haliburton County Council agenda be approved.
All in favor? Carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest this morning? Hearing none. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes from two previous meetings? Councillor Burton, Councillor Kennedy.
Moved by Councillor Burton, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Be it resolved that the following minutes of Haliburton County Council be adopted as circulated. November 23rd, 2020 special meeting of County Council, the November 25th, 2020 regular meeting of County Council, and the November 25th, 2020 special meeting of County Council.
All in favor? Carried. We have no business arising and no delegations. So we'll move on to committee reports. If I could have a mover and a seconder to move the recommendations from the committee of the whole meeting. Councillor Roberts, Councillor DeVolin, thank you.
Moved by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor DeVolin. Be it resolved that the recommendations from the December 9th, 2020 meeting of the Haliburton County Committee of the Whole be adopted by Haliburton County Council.
All in favor? Carried. Is Charles going to give us an update, Mike, or we just accept the update?
Well, she has a number of reports in line, so if you she has the report, but if you would like her to just move through that quickly, that's not a problem.
We'll bring Charles in, let her speak to her reports.
Sorry, I missed. Was there a question ahead of that, Warden?
Nope.
No. Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. So the first report is the Planning Department update. The first item is some good news. We did apply for the NDMP 2020 stream for funding, and it is with the province. We've received a number of letters of support from our partners as well as our local municipalities. So thank you to all of you for putting those letters forward. And I understand the province will be making their decision because their submissions have to be in for January. So we should hear very quickly which projects they will be supporting to move forward. Are there any questions on that item? Okay. Next item is just a quick update. I'm sure we've all heard about the Conservation Authorities Act and some changes that are being made to that, as well as the Planning Act. This is just with regards to the power and authority that conservation authorities currently have versus some changes the government is looking to make. It may have an impact on applications where we have conservation authorities at our local municipalities, and in some cases where we work with conservation authorities and the county is the approval authority. We're waiting to see what the outcome of this is, but I wanted to give you an update as we do have in municipality of Highlands East, the conservation authority there. So just, I will keep on top of this, and if there's any changes, I will bring it to your attention. If there's any questions there. Okay. The land division, we had a meeting on Monday, so the results of that meeting I was unable to put on this agenda. We did have two decisions resulting from there, and a follow-up report will come in January regarding that meeting. Schedule A and Schedule B provide summaries of current planning applications and GIS projects that are underway or ongoing. And lastly, climate change. We had our climate change working group meeting, and there's another one tomorrow specific to waste. A number of topics were discussed, including EV charging stations for electric vehicles, some performance contracting, and like I said, waste management systems will be discussed tomorrow. Currently, we're working with each of our local municipalities, similar to the last time when we set targets with regards to our greenhouse gas emissions, coming up with our 2019 results so that we'll be able to report to both the county and the local municipalities to see where those emission levels are at. And the adaptation portion of the plan is under development and hopefully will be brought forward to County Council and the local municipalities in 2021. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. Just a question on the EV charging stations. And just wondering where that's going and how would we at the local municipality sort of hear if there's an initiative to, or a joint application or a private company that wants to come in and do something. So just wanting a little bit more about the EV stations.
Sure. So through our county budget process, I will be bringing forward a couple of options because there are different options out there from purchasing outright to leasing. There's also a couple different funding streams in partnership with some companies in the province of Ontario. And for all of these, it is our goal to have collaboration with the local municipalities for a joint purchase, because the more you purchase, sometimes the price comes down as well. Also looking at co-location. At that meeting, we had the discussion about the best locations, whether that's community centers, arenas, and other highly used areas within all of our communities. So with your local staff, we did have that conversation, and we've provided some high-level financial information for each of the local budget processes. And through our budget process, we can have that discussion further on which direction County Council would like to go.
Any other questions on the planning update? Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt that report? Councillor Moffat, Councillor Burton.
Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Burton. Be it resolved that the December 16th, 2020 staff report on planning department activities be received for information by Haliburton County Council.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, next is our official plan target growth.
Thank you. Yes, this is a yearly update that I provide. We go through information from Statistics Canada, from each of the local municipalities. You provide building information, planning information. We use our own planning information to update the chart that's at the back of the county official plan. When the provincial policy statement was updated in 2020, they changed some of their target or outline timeframes for planning. It used to be a 20-year planning period, and in most cases now it's changed to 25 years when we're looking at projecting needs for housing and other uses within our communities. We're required also to accommodate residential growth within our settlement areas, rural settlement areas, and the outlying areas for a minimum of 15 years. The official plan includes this table at the back of the document, and using the information I mentioned before, we've updated it now to include all information to 2019. So there's 3 years worth of data in this table. The land that we currently have available within the county of Haliburton exceeds the estimated requirement to meet the population growth for the required 25-year planning period. There's approximately 50 years supply in our settlement areas alone. And that would be if we were only building low density development, so not medium or high. As soon as you add medium and high density, obviously that land supply, the timeline increases. And depending on servicing as well, where there's full municipal services, you can build a higher density. So therefore land supply in places like the village of Minden or the village of Haliburton would actually be higher as well. The official plan objective has an objective to increase the amount of medium and high density development to a total of 10% over the planning period. And that would require over the planning timeline, 27% new residential development to be medium or high density. And currently, for the years we've been recording, we're at about 42%. So all new residential development that's being built in the county of Haliburton, 42% of that is in the medium or high density category. We also have affordable housing targets that are included and required under the PPS. And currently, we're not meeting those targets as set out in the plan. Since 2017, countywide, we've had 49 new units, which equals about 10% of the total target. And I've included those as well in the chart that is attached both to this report and will be updated in the official plan. So if there's any questions on this, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions? Could I have a mover and a seconder to accept this report? Councillor DeVolen and Councillor Shell. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor DeVolen, seconded by Councillor Shell. Be it resolved that the December 16th, 2020 staff report regarding the County of Haliburton official plan, target growth and development be received for information by Haliburton County Council.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, next we appoint our weed inspector.
So the Weed Control Act requires us as the county to put in place a weed inspector, and we currently use Kestrel Forestry, and this report is really just recommending that continue for the next year.
Any questions or comments about that? Could I have a mover and a seconder for that appointment, please? Councillor Roberts, Councillor Moffat.
Moved by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council appoint James Rogers to the County of Haliburton as the County of Haliburton Weed Inspector for the 2021 calendar year, and that the necessary bylaw is presented to Haliburton County Council for approval.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, next is the appointment of Land Division Committee members.
So each year when we have a changeover, the local municipalities who have a municipal council member sitting on the Land Division Committee, that person or persons need to be reappointed yearly, and that's outlined in the Planning Act. And this year we have two resolutions from two of our local municipalities looking to appoint Liz Danielson and Pat Kennedy as members of the Land Division Committee, as well as Carol Moffat and Andrea Roberts as the backups or alternates in the case the other two members are unable to attend.
Any questions or concerns about that? Could I have a mover and a seconder then for those appointments? Councillor Burton, Councillor Ryle, thank you.
Moved by Councillor Burton, seconded by Councillor Ryle. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council appoints Liz Danielson and Patrick Kennedy for the period of 1 year from January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2021 to the County of Haliburton Land Division Committee, and that Carol Moffat and Andrea Roberts are appointed as alternates, and that the necessary appointment bylaw be presented for adoption.
All in favor? That's carried. The next is about a funding application and a partnership for County Road 21 development.
Thank you. Yes, to address the challenges that many of our communities have faced through COVID-19, the federal government has announced a temporary Investing in Canada infrastructure program with a COVID-19, what they're calling resilience infrastructure stream. It's a cost sharing of 80% federal and 20% provincial funding. So there would be no cost to the local municipality or to the county. There were specific project eligibility and criteria requirements, and county council or county department heads, we went through the projects that we currently have outlined and planned. And this project that we're proposing for County Road 21 meets the eligibility requirements for this stream. And we didn't have any other projects ready to go, the shovel ready. The County Road 21 corridor plan meets the requirements of the Category 3, which is active transportation infrastructure, which includes projects related to trails, bike lanes, and multi-use paths. And if you recall, County Road 21, we have a number of connections with the local municipal trail network, as well as some pedestrian crossovers to be involved in the upgrading of County Road 21 and the implementation of a multi-use pathway. This funding opportunity for the county would be a partnership with the local municipality of Dysart et al., to complete what is a significant section of the multi-use pathway. It would increase the connectivity as well as bring this pathway closer for active transportation and just pedestrian transportation to, we have a number of affordable housing developments out in this direction, as well as new developments, both commercial, retail, and it also works towards County Council's goal of climate change mitigation and adaptation, and creates, again, connectivity within the settlement area. In combination with the municipality of Dysart et al., the total minimum investment into this project would be $200,000 with no direct cost to the county for 2021. The combination of expenses for this portion of the project does not indicate or mean that the county has a commitment going forward for future money, but it will represent a significant collaboration between the two levels of municipal government.
It's really good to see this as a partnership. It's a nice way to link the area together. I think it's badly needed. Are there any questions on this application? Councillor Roberts?
Just a comment, thank you, Liz. Warden. No, we were really excited. We had this in our Dysart Council meeting yesterday as well for our portion, and it was something that was identified in the corridor study, but it's, I would say, as we've seen with all things with COVID, that more and more people are out walking, whether it be out of necessity. We want to make it so that there's active transportation if you don't have a vehicle in the town, but also just people are out walking, and we need to make it safe. There was a concern yesterday at the Dysart Council meeting regarding the pedestrian crossover at Industrial Park. I don't know if you listened or heard into that. So, excuse me, I have a tickle. I did say I would bring it forward to the county, and I can only tell you anecdotally my experience with the pedestrian crossover at Haliburton. Sometimes they stop and sometimes they're doing 60 and just go sailing right through. So I don't know, it was a concern about safety to have a pedestrian crossover at that intersection, which is much busier than the intersection Haliburton in 21, Industrial Park in 21 is fairly high traffic at certain times. So just bringing that forward as a concern of traffic lights versus pedestrian crossover.
Sure, and I can address it in kind of a high level. When we did the study, it was AECOM who produced the recommendations for the County Road 21 corridor. It was the county who did both the traffic counts in the area as well as the turning movements at that intersection specifically. It was previously brought to the county as maybe we should look at putting a light at this location. So that was specifically investigated as part of that study. And presently it's not warranted for that location. So what we're proposing with this crossover is if we put it in place now, it will be of such a nature that should in future, maybe 10 years down the road, a traffic light or some other infrastructure be required at that industrial intersection, it could be moved to another location. So the investment at this intersection isn't going to be wasted. It could be used elsewhere.
Councillor Kennedy and then Councillor Roberts.
And just, I want to echo Mayor Roberts' comments. How many accidents is too many at that intersection before we not just consider traffic counts, but also property damage and physical injuries? That has been a problem intersection. And as it gets busier and busier with development happening in that area, I really think that we need to seriously consider the capital cost of just going ahead with putting lights in now rather than in sometime in the future.
Councillor Roberts.
Yeah, just, you know what, I'll just hold my thought for now. I guess what I was going to ask is, can we apply for this, but we still have not had our first budget talks? It won't be hard to spend this much money. I know there's work that you want to do from Industrial Park towards Curry Motors. Could we, I don't think this money can be used for a traffic light. That's the thing. So that discussion would have to come up at our budget, and that's probably, if we talk to Director Public Works, is very expensive undertaking. I wonder if it's an enforcement issue. I questioned when we were putting in a pedestrian crossover, we did get extra signage there because I sort of asked for it. I feel that vehicles don't know that it's mandatory to stop. So I don't know if that's something that we ask the OPP to park on Halbium and watch them and ticket people. I don't understand why when they see those flashing lights and the big white hatch lines and a person standing there that a vehicle doesn't stop. It shocks me, but so it's an enforcement thing. We were told that that is a mandatory, what do you call it, chargeable offense if you sail through. It's like going through a red light and it's a pedestrian. I just don't want someone to get hurt.
May I respond to that through you, Madam Morgan?
Yes.
So to answer actually both comments and questions from Councillor Kennedy and Councillor Roberts, what we can do as part of designing the industrial park intersection for this funding is we can commit to doing those counts again, see where we're at, see if there's been significant change, because it was a couple years ago that the AECOM study came into play. I mean, there's standards that are out there, and see where we fall. That's not a difficult thing to do. And then yes, as part of the budget conversation, because I believe you're right, Councillor Roberts, the traffic light may not be part of that funding amount. So, but we can go back and definitely have a look at it.
Do you have any idea or estimate on the cost of installing a traffic light? Okay.
No, sorry. Oh,
Councillor DeVolen?
Some years ago in Minden Hills, we investigated the cost, and it in a proper modern one seemed to be in the order of $250,000.
Wow. Further discussion on that item, I'm thinking. So could we have a mover and a seconder for the motion as it stands? Councillor Roberts, Councillor Moffat.
Moved by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council supports the joint Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program application with the municipality of Dysart et al. To the COVID-19 Resilience Infrastructure Stream for continued development within the County Road 21 corridor. The county proposal will include connectivity to the existing multi-use pathway, extension westward along County Road 21, and include a pedestrian crossover at Industrial Road.
All in favor? Carried.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Planner. Okay, next are under admin reports is a report on transportation options. Would we be bringing Amanda in to talk to us, or Craig?
Amanda, I believe.
Okay, I just see Public Works just popped up on the screen. Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning, Warden and members of council. As you know, throughout 2019, staff had discussions with a shared ride service provider who was potentially interested in developing a pilot program geared toward tourists from May to October 2020. As a result of the COVID-19 crisis, the provider wasn't able to continue discussions due to lack of internal resources. So as a result, staff approached a different shared ride service provider, and this company provided a business plan and overview for the county's consideration. And as you'll recall, the plan was discussed during a closed session of council on November 25th, 2020. Since that November meeting, the company has revealed that they're launching in 2 other markets and are now not able to pursue opportunities with the County of Haliburton at this time. So while there isn't currently an active discussion with a shared ride service provider, we do recommend investigating the development of a shared ride service bylaw for 2021, which would enable future opportunities for county consideration should they arise. At the moment, the licensing of taxi cabs is a local municipality responsibility under 2 different sections of the Municipal Act. However, there may be an option for consideration to have a county-wide bylaw just to allow for ease of application and operation by potential future service providers. So that would just be something we would look into for 2021.
So we would be approaching each of the 4 municipalities to get their support on a county-wide bylaw.
Yes, that would be the intention.
Okay, are there any thoughts or questions about this? Would council like us to proceed to do that? Councillor Roberts?
Well, I think it's a great idea to preemptively look at a bylaw because we could have another smaller entity or another, the service provider we were trying to talk to all of a sudden, and they move quickly. And I think having the bylaw in place and having that at the local municipalities will take a little bit of time. Just curious, who would create the wording of the bylaw, and is it basically just a bylaw allowing that? There's no funds transferring from the local municipality. I'm just curious what the bylaw would roughly look like.
As I understand it, there wouldn't be any funds changing hands. And I do believe the Director of Planning would be assisting with the creation of that bylaw.
Thank you.
Councillor DeVolen?
Yeah, I'm in support of this, but isn't this one of 100 things that will flow from the service delivery review?
Thoughts on that? It might be. So I'm looking for direction. Should we proceed to correspond with the municipalities and just sort of get a feeling for their levels of support? Do we need to add that to our resolution, Mike?
I think that was part of the staff report, so I'm not sure we need anything additional. I will just reach out to the local CAOs as part of our intermunicipal collaboration efforts.
Okay.
Okay.
So if I then could have a mover and a seconder to receive this report. Councillor DeVolen, Councillor Kennedy.
Moved by Councillor DeVolen, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council receives the Transportation Options Report for information and directs staff to investigate a shared ride service bylaw in 2021.
All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. So the next is an update on our goals and objectives that we set for the year, and I will turn that discussion over to Mr. Rudder.
Thank you, Warden. I don't think I need to go through each item individually. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. We've tried to provide an update. With the exception of the rural the regional economic development priority, I believe we're on target in all of the areas. The regional economic development priority was put on aside or set aside because we knew it would be a significant point of conversation during the service delivery review, and it was. Ultimately, there is a recommendation, and it's my understanding that County Council will be meeting in early January to have a session that would talk about the implementation of the service delivery review, and I expect we'll get further direction on that at that time.
And would you do you have a notion of the timing on a discussion to set our county council goals and objectives for next year?
My sense is that a lot of that will flow out of the service delivery review conversation. These targets were established for the term of council, so these will stay in place. Okay. But I do believe there will be a lot more direction received as part of the service delivery review implementation.
Are there any thoughts, comments, or questions on the report that we have before us? Councillor Roberts?
I just appreciate the update. It was really, we've all had such incredibly full years, and to look back at and remind myself of that meeting that we had a year ago, September. And so this is great to see in black and white. We need the reminders. It's really easy to just get caught in the moment of the immediate of what was happening today. And this keeps our eye on the long-term end game. So thank you for remembering to include this today.
Okay, could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt or accept the report? Councillor Moffat, Councillor Kennedy, thank you.
Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council received the December 16th, 2020 goals and objectives / strategic plan for 2020 to 2022 annual update report.
All in favor? Thank you. Okay, we'll move into reports and minutes from external boards and agencies. We have a set of minutes from the health unit. Any comments or information you'd like to give us? Councillor Roberts?
Thank you. Only just under item 5, I believe it is, B, where they talk about the restructuring of services such as vision, screening, oral health, and school board immunization. All the health unit staff have had to be deployed, reployed, whatever that's called. So some of these things are not able to get done, but they're ensuring they're getting done in other ways. But it just goes to show the stress and strain that is on the health unit staff. But other than that, and yeah, I don't think I have anything else to report on those minutes.
Thank you. Are there any questions about the minutes or health unit activities? Okay, could we have a move? Oh no, sorry. Moving, I'm getting ahead of myself. Anything on point in time? Okay.
Sorry, no, we haven't met since the last time we had a county meeting.
Councillor Roberts?
Yeah, I just had a question for Councillor Schell regarding the funding announcement. And I meant to ask you that at the last meeting, but I forgot. There was a funding announcement for was it for the youth hub? Did you ever speak to that? It was announced. I mean, I read it in the paper, but I don't recall getting any more information on that.
I'm not sure. We haven't, obviously that hasn't come through in our minutes yet. So yeah, I'm not honestly sure right now.
Yeah, it was in our local papers and some funding announcement. So I just wondered if you were able to speak that. Maybe you could just look into that.
I will, because there was a few funding announcements and some of them were not for youth. So I'll look into that though. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Schell. Okay, nothing. I don't have anything today on the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus. I see that we have a report from the Joint Social and Housing Services Committee. Any comments or thoughts about that? Okay.
I think it speaks for itself.
Yeah. Okay, health professional services. I think that we have a report later on. Was there anything else that you wanted to comment on, Councillor Moffat?
No, the work of that group will be seen in the next report.
Okay. Nothing on the land claim. And there are 2 sets of minutes for the library board. Any questions or comments about the library board? We will be meeting later on today. Okay, if we could have a mover and a seconder to accept these minutes. Councillor Burton, Councillor Kennedy.
Moved by Councillor Burton, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council receives for information the following: the November 19th, 2020 approved minutes from the Haliburton Kawartha Pine Ridge District Health Unit Board of Health meeting, and the 2020 Q3 financial report, City of Kawartha Lakes, 2020 Haliburton County contribution, social services and housing information as of September 30th, 2020, and the approved minutes from the October 14th, 2020, and the draft minutes from the November 10th, 2020 meetings of the Haliburton County Public Library Board.
All in favor? Carried. I don't believe that we have anything from the land division. So on to external boards and agencies. Anything from our Ontario Good Roads Association, Mr. Burton?
No, I don't have an update except that we do have a meeting tomorrow, and we're working away on our virtual conference.
Thank you. Any questions about Good Roads? All right. Any update or information from EORN, Councillor?
Much as I said before, no, it will be some months probably before I can report out on anything with respect to EORN. And the next one, the Poverty Reduction Roundtable, haven't met since the last time we convened. So on both of those, there's nothing that I can report today.
Okay, thank you. Sure, we all await with bated breath information about EORN and their activities. All right, on to other business. The first item is renewal of employee benefits. Mr. Rutter?
I believe actually Andrea Bull is going to present this report.
My apologies, Andrea.
Okay, good morning, Warden and Council. My first report today is for the renewal of the county's group benefit plan. We recently met with Kyle Brewer of K Brewer Financial Services and received the final renewal proposal of 5.7% for 2021. My report identifies the specific categories that have increased and decreased for your reference. Overall, this is a 1% decrease from last year and a cost of just under $34,000 for 2021.
Any questions? Could we have a mover and a seconder to accept this report? Councillor DeVolen, Councillor Shell.
Moved by Councillor DeVolen, seconded by Councillor Shell. Be it resolved that the December 16th, 2020 staff report on the 2021 renewal of employee benefits be received by Haliburton County Council, and that the employee benefit renewal proposal by K Brewer Financial Services Incorporated, effective February 1st, 2021, be accepted.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, next, the non-union cost of living.
Typically, I would bring you this report annually to council requesting the same increase for the non-union staff as negotiated by Local 1960. In an effort to increase efficiencies, I'd like to recommend going forward that all non-union cost of living increases be brought to council at the time of ratification for the lengths negotiated by 1960. Currently, Local 1960 has negotiated 1.75% for years 2021 and all the way to 2023.
Any questions or comments? A mover and a seconder to accept this. Councillor Roberts, Councillor Kennedy.
Moved by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Be it resolved that the December 16th, 2020 staff report on non-union staff cost of living increase 2021 be received by Halliburton County Council, and that the cost of living increase negotiated by QP Local 1960 for years 2021 to 2023 be provided to non-union staff effective pay period 1 of each year.
All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Next is, thanks so much, Andrea. Next is the physician recruitment program review. I believe this is over to you, Mike.
Actually, we'll bring in our physician recruiter, and if we could bring Andrea in as well. Okay, so we have met. I think we met. I think I included it in the report, but we met with the physician recruitment liaison, council liaison, Councillor Moffat and Warden Danielson towards the end of November. We talked about a number of questions that had arisen. Cheryl provided a number of issues that she's encountered over the last year, and I think members of council talked about a number of questions that they still had with the program. So it gave us an opportunity to do a bit of a comprehensive report outlining all of those question areas and making a recommendation on each of those for county council to consider. I'm not sure how you want to go about it, if you want to just go section by section, but I don't know if you want me to provide some context of each or just go through.
I think it might be helpful to go through it section by section.
Okay, so one of the things that we had is the recruitment and retention of locums. The locums weren't included in our terms of reference initially. And so, but it is a really important part of physician retention. The physician burnout in rural Ontario is a very, in rural practice is a really significant issue. And so this is one area where we can ensure that the physicians get the respite that they require, but also that when they're on that leave of one form or another that they are, that the community is still receiving medical care and has access to medical care. So the recommendation that the physician recruitment coordinator has made is that locums be included in the scope of work for physician recruitment.
Are there any questions on that portion of the report? Okay, carry on.
The next section is around recruitment and retention of rural generalists. Our initial terms of reference referenced family practitioners only. And this is I guess, a scope of practice that is a little broader than that. I believe I've included a definition, or Cheryl provided a definition for me to include. And they're trained to meet specific current and future healthcare needs of rural and remote communities by providing both comprehensive general practice, emergency care, and required components of other medical specialist care. So ultimately, this is really the ideal situation in a rural community. It's where a physician has a family practice, but also is working in the hospital, emergency department, and other things. So we are recommending that be a rural generalist be included in the scope of work for the physician recruitment coordinator as well.
Any questions or thoughts about that? Okay. Carry on.
The next section is around the recruitment and retention of nurse practitioners. Again, our terms of reference didn't include nurse practitioners, but they are becoming more and more an important part of rural healthcare delivery. I will say that there is currently the province is undergoing a funding review, I understand, of how nurse practitioners are funded, and there may or may not be funding available, not from us, none of it would flow through us, but from the family health team or the FO. So there may or may not be funding at this time for that, but regardless, we are recommending that nurse practitioners recruitment be included in the scope of work for the physician recruitment coordinator, and that we are provided no financial incentives other than moving expenses, and we'll discuss that later on in the report.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that because we're including recruitment for locums and nurse practitioners does not mean that we're providing the financial incentives that we give to the doctors, but there are other considerations. All right, carry on.
The next question really arose about clinics, recruitment and retention activities for clinics outside of Haliburton County. And we do have, we mentioned a couple in the report, Kinmount and Dorset. I think that this would be more a case of, if a physician approached us, could we help them? If they were wanting to practice in either of those clinics, would we be able to help them? Currently, we would be restricted to Haliburton County clinics only, but the reality is those clinics provide care to a lot of residents of Haliburton County. So what we're recommending is that the physician recruitment coordinator assists in recruiting physicians and or nurse practitioners to those clinics outside Haliburton County, provided that a significant percentage of the patients, and we're suggesting 20% or higher, reside in Haliburton County. Yeah.
Questions or thoughts? Councillor Roberts and then Councillor Moffat.
So yeah, I did have a question on this one. When you say significant and then say 20%, 20% isn't significant to me. Like it's so you're saying 20% of the patients live in Haliburton County and 80% live outside, but we're going to support that position. So I just don't think that, I don't know where you came up with the number and the rationale. Maybe you can explain.
I think from my perspective, it was more about numbers. So if a typical, and Cheryl, if I'm wrong about this, you correct me. But if a typical family practice has in excess of 750 patients, that could be 150 patients from Haliburton County. So I looked at it less about a percentage and more about the number of patients. So if that's 150 Haliburton County residents who have access to primary care because of our recruitment efforts, I think the financial incentive question is a whole other issue, but just around Cheryl providing assistance to find physicians or nurse practitioners to those areas. That led to our recommendation.
Councillor Moffat.
I seem to be having lots of memory gaps. I wasn't sure that we'd actually gone this far on this. I remember having the conversation about, not dissimilar to Councillor Roberts, about the percentage and the challenge in finding out, due to privacy regulation, who's coming from where. So I know that you're not going to get, a name and an address and a medical file, but I wonder, I remain curious, as per this group's discussion, about how you determine that percentage, or at what point is there a request from the neighboring municipality to being I guess it's Peterborough or City Kawartha Lakes, I'm not sure which one it is, and Muskoka to help with that. So and in terms of the Dorset one, it's the Dorset clinic has a nurse practitioner. The roster is full, from what I understand. It's very difficult to get in there, and I would like to see a conversation between the operators of that clinic and the county before agreeing to this.
Councillor DeVolen.
I agree that we need to have a conversation, knowing how many people in Linden Hills, including my own family, use the one in Kinmount. I'd like the further discussion and to know what the utilization level is, and whether, so that it could lead to a decision whether we would or wouldn't consider it going forward. But in the last, I guess, since I've sat in this chair, there's been more years that there's been more doctors in Kinmount than there has been in Minden for us to drop in and see. So that's kind of the reality of the landscape. And I'd just like to know, other than my anecdotal analysis of that, where those numbers are, and whether that was, my frame of reference is from a couple of years ago, and what the reality is today. Just, some numbers and conversations so we can talk intelligently about whether we should or shouldn't do it.
I think that the committee had a bit of a struggle with this particular part of our discussion. Not so much with, well, partly to do with the amount of time and work that Cheryl puts into recruitment and how we might recover some of those costs. But we started to dig our heels in when it came to the incentive portion of it. And that's something that we would need to come to a clear agreement with City of Kawartha Lakes and Muskoka, before we went any further with that. I'll go to Councillor Royale and then Councillor Moffat.
I have a tendency to, excuse me, I have a tendency to agree we need to have more discussion on it, because I know in the former townships of Snowdon and Glenmorgan, a lot of people go to the Kinmount one, and I'm not saying we should fund them. I'm actually saying there should be somebody there for them to go to, if that's possible, and if there's any way we can help.
Councillor Moffat.
Yeah, I was just going to circle back and say that, this is a fulsome report with suggestions, recommendations for a number of significant changes in this program. This program is really maturing, and the fact that there's an interest in having further conversation on this particular part is good news. It's just refining and further clarifying how far the reach of this program can and should become. So, I look forward to seeing what we can come up with and what conversations might happen from this. The fact that we don't just carte blanche approve this today in this report is not a bad thing at all. It's the start of a good conversation, I think.
So I guess the question is, do we leave this portion of the report in, or do we take this part out for further consideration and discussion?
I think we're just asking for direction as we move along. So I don't think it needs to be moved out, other than my sense is the direction is that we defer the conversation to it until more information is available.
Is that satisfactory to everyone? Okay.
The next section is with respect to financial incentives. This has evolved over time. Currently, we offer $25,000 per year for a minimum commitment of 4 years, and that is for full-time practice. The maximum payable is $150,000 if they provide a 6-year return of service commitment. The physician recruitment coordinator has done some research in other communities, and I think she struggled, and Cheryl, again, if I'm wrong, you correct me, but I think you struggled to find a true apples to apples comparison. But I think generally speaking, she found that most communities are offering 5-year return of service agreements with financial commitments that range between $100,000 and $150,000. Our program has been very successful. It's probably a little more financial commitment than other communities, but it has been very successful. And I think it's really difficult to predict how a change will affect our success, but the coordinator has suggested that the incentive program be amended to provide $25,000 per year for up to 6 years for a rural generalist. And you'll recall earlier in the report, I talked about the broader scope of practice for the rural generalist, and $25,000 for a maximum of 4 years for physicians who practice in either family practice or emergency departments.
Thoughts or questions on this section? Okay.
The next section again is more of a financial incentive, but there's kind of a two issue thing here. The first is, do we contemplate reimbursing for moving expenses? Our previous program did contemplate it, but as we read it and spent more time interpreting it, it became clear that I think the moving expenses were intended to be provided to physicians who did not take the financial incentive program. That said, I messed up. Cheryl asked me in previous recruitments whether we could provide financial incentives or moving costs, and so I read the terms of reference and interpreted them incorrectly. So what we're asking is that, or recommending, is that the financial incentive program of up to $5,000 based on receiving receipts, and extend to all categories of physicians. And this would be offered whether or not the physician chose to enter into a return of service agreement. But if council chooses not to do that, we are still requesting approval to live up to the commitments that I made in error to the previous two physicians.
Thoughts or comments? Councillor Kennedy.
Just a question on the reimbursement for a physician who enters into a return of service agreement. Would the $5,000 be deducted from the $25,000? Or is this in addition to?
I believe it's in addition to.
I think that's what was intended. Councillor Roberts.
Just also curious, is this a flat rate, 5,000, no receipts needed? No. Just given an estimate, or how would that work?
No, it's up to $5,000 but we require receipts. It's a Revenue Canada requirement at more than ours.
I'm just trying to remember. I know that we talked a bit about nurse practitioners, and whether we would, although we wouldn't offer the financial incentives to the nurse practitioners, whether we would offer moving expenses for them.
That is included in the recommendation.
Okay, and any questions or thoughts about that? All right. Moving along.
The next section is regarding housing. I think one of Cheryl's largest challenges over the last year has been finding housing, temporary and some more permanent housing for physicians who are considering coming here. But we had done some investigation about purchasing either a condominium or a house. I think that it really is a challenge that we need to address. Cheryl is often left scrambling to try and find temporary housing, whether it's a locum or a physician coming here to visit the community. With locums, they do receive money for housing from it's in their fee structure. And that's something we could certainly pass those costs along, or we could invoice the locum for those services. So what it's difficult to know until we know, to provide a detailed business case until we know exactly how much we have to pay for a property, and we don't have that yet. So, but we anticipate that the overall cost to this, the net cost, would be less than $10,000 annually for the county. And we are recommending that staff be directed to advertise for potential rental properties and bring back a report to county council in the first quarter of 2021. I think you're on mute, Gordon.
Sorry, thoughts or questions on housing? Councillor Moffat?
Yeah, the housing one's a tough one. And I know I'm often on the receiving end of Cheryl's email saying, you know, I need a place for someone to live for a while. And again, it's just part of the increasingly robust offerings within this program. And it makes sense to have the report come forward to see what we can find. You know, the market's very competitive. We know we're facing it with with COVID and short-term rentals, and it's not as easy now to just find a place for 6 months for somebody as perhaps it might have been in a number of years ago when this program wasn't either in existence or as mature as it is now. So, you know, no harm, no foul in looking to see if we can go in this direction. It is fully dependent on being able to recoup those funds. So to me, $10,000 a year is if that's what it costs, is just another addition to the program that we're offering. And I would like to see, this is one of the ones where, well, if we move it forward, let's see how it goes, because if it doesn't, we could pull it back if it turns out not to work as we're hoping. So this is one I'll be interested in keeping an eye on.
Any other thoughts or questions about the housing issue? Councillor Roberts?
Okay, so just to clarify, that the net cost is and like we say, we don't really know, but say we rent a place and it's $1,500 a month. So that's, I can't do quick math, but you know, that's a lot more than 10,000 a year. And so, but then the locums do pay, so there would be some recouping of costs, and you're estimating that the net is 10. Is that what I'm reading?
Yes.
Yes, and we think that's a conservative estimate based on, it would all depend on how much it's used, but we think that's a conservative estimate.
Well, I agree with Councillor Moffat. I think it makes sense to pursue this because it's a constant struggle to find places. There aren't quality places, and for those short terms that come up. So I think it's something we should definitely pursue.
And a really good alternative to us bearing the cost of buying a property and maintaining it. Okay, so next would be insurance.
Yeah, so in the past, we have purchased an insurance policy, a life insurance policy for each new physician that enters into a return of service agreement. That costs about $250 a year. I guess we're not really certain what the intent was. I think our conversation, we have some assumptions that the committee had, but we're not really sure. But it seems that if the intention was to recover, you know, some of the county's investment in the tragic event of a physician's passing. So our recommendation is that we really be amended and we remove the requirement for purchasing a life insurance policy. We have had that, you know, I said, because of the way the timing is, we would essentially have a year of practice from each physician for each $25,000 payment.
Thoughts or questions? Okay, carry on.
One of the things we think it's important to do is celebrate our success a little bit. And so what we're suggesting is that there be a formal process for the announcement of these signings. We're not suggesting a large check or anything like that, kind of photo op, but we do think it's important that it's an opportunity to celebrate the success, but also for a story for the community to get to know new physicians that are locating here. So what we're recommending is that post-COVID, obviously, or maybe even during in a physically safe way, we're hoping to have a media event when each new physician signs the return of service agreement. That would be attended by the new physician, the county warden, the physician recruitment council liaison, and the physician recruitment coordinator. And all members of county council would be advised of the event.
Thoughts or questions? I like the idea of us being able to celebrate, our successes and the work that Cheryl's doing, and let people know that we have another doctor in the community. I'm sure they'll all be happy to see that. Okay, then on to proposed memorandum of understanding.
This is one that will absolutely evolve, and I know will be a significant topic of conversation for the physician recruitment committee in the coming months. But as with any agreement or where you're doing an activity or something together with partners, I think it's important that everyone has an understanding of what their expectations are of one another and what the expectations are of yourself. And so we're suggesting that a memorandum of understanding be developed with recruitment partners. Those are the Family Health Team, or the FO, and Triple HS. And it would include some things that we've noted in here, but again, those are just a very short list that I know will get much bigger, and those will be discussed at the committee level before they come here. But hopefully they could all be incorporated into an agreement that we could have to county council sometime in 2021 that would formalize the relationship.
Thoughts or comments, Councillor Moffat?
Yeah, this is something that I feel very strongly about and have suggested in the past. Mentioned earlier in this conversation that this program is really finding its feet now and is seeing some good success. The expectations and the needs are many by many parties. We've just seen with this report today about the scope and reach of the program. And I think we need to be honest and admit that there have been challenges and frustrations with the various parties. And I mean, that's not name calling or finger pointing. It's just a bunch of groups of people who are really busy in their own worlds trying to coordinate to get something done. And it has admittedly in the past been a bit like who's on first. And so if we can really clearly lay out like who does what when, so that everyone knows what their responsibility is for this program, it should smooth things out a little bit so that it doesn't have to be like who's on first and not knowing, are you doing this and can you come Tuesday? And it's been a bit disorganized sometimes, but successful anyway. So yeah, this is something that I think absolutely needs to happen. This is the natural next step in the maturation of this program. So definitely look forward to those conversations.
And it'll help clear a path for Cheryl as well in her work. Any other thoughts and questions about that? Councillor Roberts?
No, I think that part is a great idea. It's always good to formalize who's responsible for what. I just want to go back to, if I could, the what's it called, where the return of service agreements. And I'm wondering, do we, in our program, do we ever cap the number of people that are participating in the program? I can't remember that part. Only saying that we've been very successful in the last couple of years, thanks to our hiring of a physician recruiter. So, what happens if we get a flurry of people? Do we cap that? I can't remember. So thank you.
I don't think the program caps it. You will hear from us in budget discussions about, how we pay for Cheryl's success. I think we stay in pretty close contact with Cheryl. So we watch, Andrea and I watch the budget and Cheryl while Cheryl's out recruiting physicians. And if we didn't feel there was the capacity to fund a position, we would certainly come back to county council and get some further direction.
So are there any other thoughts or questions about this, this particular report? Go
I
ahead.
have one. So one of the things we have talked about, and I just want to make sure council are aware of, but we have talked about some additional hours for Cheryl. And I just want to make sure that council are aware we're implementing those as well. We have approval for that already, but I just want to remind council that what we have found is that the initial plan of 17 and a half hours just was insufficient to do what was required to be done. And I know Cheryl has worked way more than she has been compensated for. And so I just want to be clear with council that we believe we've received that direction already, but I just want to remind council that we received that direction.
Councillor DeVolen.
And money well spent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the bulk of that report. Before I ask for a mover and a seconder to receive it, I'd just like to thank Cheryl for the work that you've done. You've had some real success, and we're fortunate to have you working for us. So could I have a mover and a seconder to accept this report and its recommendations? Councillor Moffat, Councillor Roberts.
Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council receives for information the December 16th, 2020 staff report on the physician recruitment program review and direct staff to have the program documents updated to incorporate council's direction.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Cheryl. Okay, the next item is the meeting schedule. Assuming everyone's had a look at it, are there any issues? Pretty standard. Could I have a mover and a seconder then to accept the meeting schedule as presented? Councillor DeVolen, Councillor Shell.
Moved by Councillor DeVolen, seconded by Councillor Shell. Be it resolved that the 2021 County Council and Committee of the Whole meeting schedule be received by Haliburton County Council, and that these dates be approved as the final meeting dates for 2021.
All in favor? Carried. Next are the procedural bylaw updates, which I'll look to Mr. Rutter.
Yes. So I think we have pretty much incorporated all of the direction that we've received to date. In, I guess, the changes that have occurred from the last meeting, we have included the intermunicipal collaboration in the Committee of the Whole meeting as opposed to the council meeting. We have incorporated the, I guess, the fact that the chair will now, or the warden will chair the Committee of the Whole meetings. But there will be formal council liaison positions created for what would have been the former standing committees, and then some just general housekeeping to remove the references to chair or vice chairs. But I believe all of council's direction has been incorporated into there. Again, because of the provisions in our procedural bylaw, this would come forward to the January 27th council meeting in 2021.
Are there any thoughts about the procedural bylaw, things that you'd like to see changed or added at this time? Councillor Moffat.
I just want to circle back on our previous conversation and that we are going to see a report about the weighted vote coming forward.
Yes, absolutely. We just didn't have time to turn that around in a week.
I figured. Thank you.
The only other thing that came up was with respect to yesterday and putting Mayor Roberts in a rather awkward position of having to draw a name out of a proverbial hat. And I actually had several people comment to me that they believe that this should be the responsibility of the clerk. Are there any thoughts about that? About making a possible change there, or do you want to let it stand as is? Councillor Moffat?
I wholeheartedly agree that I don't understand why the clerk can't take care of that. And if there's a requirement for, just like happened yesterday with a provision of seeing something is signed if this kind of world continues, I don't understand. I understand the idea of pulling a name should there be a tie. I get that, but who does it makes no sense to me at all, and I think it's a bit odd and unfair. So,
Councillor Roberts.
Well, I concur. I believe it was quoted already in the paper and was on social media last night that I said, this is hard. I felt this dreadful feeling because I respect both of you so much. Not to mention, it was very difficult physically to reach an envelope. The papers, I think, were to get. I was really having struggled to separate. Anyway, I felt dreadful, so I don't. Whether it's me sitting in the chair or any other county councillor, I think it should not be done that way. And I would wholeheartedly support that the clerk present, in the event of a tie, do that draw.
And I believe that that is a standard in some other municipalities. So can we contemplate making that change, Mr. Rutter?
Sure, I will do the awkward thing. No, absolutely. We can incorporate that into a future draft.
Okay. So could I have, are there any other thoughts on the procedural bylaw as it stands now and what we've recommended? So could I have a mover and a seconder to accept this report? Councillor DeVolen, Councillor Moffat.
By Councillor DeVolen, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council receives for information the December 16th, 2020 staff report incorporating further changes to the county's procedural bylaw as directed, and that the amended procedural bylaw be presented at the January 27th, 2021 meeting for adoption by Haliburton County Council. And finally, that this staff report will serve as notice that County Council intends to pass the amended procedural bylaw at its next meeting.
All in favor? Carried. So the next is a little bit unexpected maybe for some, because we hadn't really talked about this up until this point, and I think it got added to the agenda at a rather late minute. But the next item is the nomination process for deputy warden. So Mr. Rutter, if you could speak to that, please.
First of all, I'm not sure why I have such a blind spot around this. I forgot to put it on the agenda last year, so County Council added it, and then I did it again this year. I really do apologize. The procedural bylaw says that prior to the adjournment of the regular December council meeting, any councillor who wishes to serve as deputy warden will announce their desire to have their name stand and will be provided up to 10 minutes to address council. At the January council meeting, an election will be held, if required, by secret ballot, where members of county council will choose the deputy warden for a one-year term. The official swearing in will take place at that meeting. So I guess it's just a question of whether anyone wants to allow their name to stand.
Are there any members of council who would like to see their name stand for deputy warden? Councillor Kennedy. Would you like to speak to that, or should we ask first if there's any other members who would like to put their name forward? Well, it looks like we'd like to hear you speak about your...
That was an easy campaign. I think being one of the rookie team members here, that I've been able to sit back and really absorb and learn a lot in the last 2 years. And I feel I'm at the next step in the process of learning more about the workings of both not only county council, but also the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus. And I look forward to working with you, Madam Warden. I think we will work well together as a team. And I'm really looking forward to the next steps in this. So thank you for your confidence and support, everyone, moving forward. Thank you.
So do we need an official nominator and seconder, Mike?
I don't believe so. Yeah, no, we don't.
And no resolution required at this time?
No, we'll just do the swearing in at the January council meeting.
Well, thank you for your interest, Councillor Kennedy. Well, that concludes the open portion of our agenda. So if I could have a mover and a seconder to go into closed, and we would maybe take a 10-minute break. Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Royale.
Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Ryle. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council enter into closed session as per section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended for the following reasons. Personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees.
All in favor? Carried. So we'll all be back at 10:25.
We're back live, Warden Danielson.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move into the bylaw section of the agenda. And first is the bylaw to appoint the weed inspector. Could I have a mover and a seconder for that bylaw? Councillor Burton, Councillor Moffat.
By Councillor Burton, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Be it resolved that bylaw 4023, being a bylaw to appoint an area weed inspector for the 2021 calendar year in accordance with the requirements of the Weed Control Act, RSO 1990, Chapter W5, be considered to be read a first, second, third time, finally passed, and the seal of the corporation be affixed.
All in favor? That's carried. The next is the bylaw to appoint the Land Division Committee members. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor DeVolen. And seconded by Councillor Roberts.
Moved by Councillor DeVolen, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that bylaw 4024, being a bylaw to appoint a land division committee for the corporation of the county of Haliburton, be considered to be read a first, second, third time, finally passed, and the seal of the corporation be affixed.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, the next item is the committee appointment bylaw. And as I mentioned yesterday, for the most part, unless I heard otherwise, that we would maintain the status quo. There's a couple of minor things that I wanted to point out. First, I wanted to thank Councillor Roberts for all the work that you put into the health unit and the reporting coming out of that. It's been a really challenging year, and you've really done a fabulous job of keeping us updated and informed and giving us clarification when we needed it. So I hope that you're more than willing to stay with that appointment. I had talked or thought a bit about the fact that we needed to possibly establish a community safety and well-being committee, and would have appointed Carol to that position, given that she's been kind of leading the charge there. But at the present time, it's still an ad hoc committee, so we'll leave it to the committee to establish what their long-term goals and how we want to set that up will be at the meeting that we do have. The same goes for planning. Planning appointments would be made when the planning committee, when we meet as a whole as the planning committee. We can make recommendations at that time about who might be the liaison for that. And because Carol would be considered to chair the community safety and well-being, I've made a slight switch in roads and would ask Councillor DeVolen to be the alternate on roads that would be chaired by Councillor Burton. Otherwise, everything else stands the same. We might at some point in the future, given our discussions about the service delivery review, decide to establish an economic development committee. So we would make an appointment to chair or liaison that committee at that time. Any questions about that? Okay, could I have a mover and a seconder to move this passing the bylaw? Councillor Moffat, Councillor Burton.
So we have amended the bylaw to add the name, the library board appointment as discussed in closed session.
Excellent.
Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Burton. Be it resolved that bylaw 4025, being a bylaw to repeal and replace bylaw number 3965 as amended, respecting the appointment of members of council and public representatives of the corporation of the county of Haliburton, to appoint a council liaison to various county departments and to appoint members of council as representatives of the corporation of the county of Haliburton to external boards and organizations as amended, be considered to be read a first, second, third time, finally passed, and the seal of the corporation be affixed.
All in favor? That's carried. Is there any notice of motion? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder to pass the confirming bylaw? Councillor Moffat, Councillor Roberts.
Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that bylaw 4026, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the December 16th, 2020 meeting of Halliburton County Council, be considered read a first, second, third time, finally passed, and the seal of the corporation be affixed.
All in favor? And just before we adjourn, I'd like to thank everyone, wish everyone a safe and happy holiday. I know it's going to be a little bit different this year, but because we've been so good at innovation over the last year, I think we'll all find ways to have our holidays in the best way that we possibly can. So best of the season to everyone. And could I have a mover and a seconder to adjourn? Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Moffat, thank you.
Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Be it resolved that the December 16th, 2020 meeting of Halliburton County Council be adjourned.
We stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Merry
Be
Christmas.
safe, everyone.
Yeah, Merry
Christmas.
Christmas. Thanks. Bye.